Namaskar, welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. Viewers, it was like a storm that hit the media world in our country in the middle of the week when the opposition alliance, consisting of some of the most important opposition parties, decided not to attend the shows by certain selected anchors, the allegation being that these anchors are trying to instill hate through their programs, their questions and their attitudes, and the opposition claim that they would not like to be an enabler or a participant in this game. The said anchors, at least most of them, have reacted by saying they will not be intimidated by these messages and such targeting, but will continue to ask probing questions no matter what. In the middle of this polarized situation, what does it portend for the people of the country, the common media consumer and the rest of the media industry? To find out answers to these vexed questions, let's go to my special guests on Media Scan this evening. Joining me here, Neerja Chowdhury, well-known author, veteran journalist. She has seen it all for decades and will be able to tell us what this sudden move means for the media of the country as well as our democracy. Welcome to Media Scan, Neerja Chowdhury. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Also with me, KG Suresh, a professor in one of the better-known media universities of the country, has also headed the country's premier media institution in the past. We are proud that he is also served in Doordarshan earlier. Welcome, sir. Namaskar. And to understand the legal constitutional position of this polarized, very, very difficult situation, I have senior lawyer of the Supreme Court, Ramakant Gaur, with me. Namaskar, Mr. Gaur. Thank you for joining. And if I may come to Neerja Chowdhury first. Neerja Chowdhury, you have seen it all, as I just mentioned. Have you ever, in your experience, seen such acrimony and polarization between the political class and the media industry? Also, do you think TV debates are actually becoming hate-filled? They are creating a sort of a difference between the society and various communities. And is it justified to address that situation by doxing or by targeting individual anchors? Your take, ma'am.
Well, you've asked me 2-3 questions, Smita. The standoff between government and media has happened in the past. We saw it in the emergency years also. We saw it subsequently when Rajiv Gandhi's government tried to bring a defamation bill against which there was huge protest and then they backtracked. So there are several occasions on which this has happened in the past. Let me start by saying, you know this and I know this. It is not the job of the media to do PR for either the government or for the opposition parties or
Correct.
for any political party.
Yes.
Having said that, obviously the opposition parties feel that they don't get fair play by certain anchors. But I still think, even if that is the case, I think it's a very unfortunate decision that they have taken because you may feel frustrated if you go on certain programs and certain anchors will shout you down, will cut you short, will not let you complete what you have to say or give you little time or are not fair to you. There can be frustration on that ground. But you are further deepening the divide and the polarization in the country by taking this step, even if it's meant to be a step in protest. For the simple reason you are saying these anchors are pro-government. They will not do justice to us. In other words, are the other anchors that you have not listed, are they supposed to be anti-government? you are willy-nilly labeling the others also. It is very unfortunate, the polarization in the country and the growing bitterness in our country between the two sides. And the media is increasingly getting sucked in this whirlpool, becoming part of it. And it's becoming, I think, increasingly difficult for the media to function independently, fairly, because there are a whole lot of pressures that I know, and many others know, that we are subjected to, and we've got to navigate a very difficult terrain to be able to do justice to what our real role is, which is to show the aina, the mirror, to the government and to the political class.
Neerja ji, you will be glad to know that here on DD, we give enough ample time to all our esteemed guests to express their views, to make their arguments. However, as you said, this is indeed a difficult situation. Whether it will benefit the political people who have taken the stance, I'll come to you later on that. But certainly for the media, it is not an unenviable situation at all. Let us just listen to the Minister for Information Broadcasting. What was his reaction on this very extreme situation before I come to Professor K.G. Suresh?
मीडिया के लोगों का एक तरह से विरोध करना, उनकी आवाज को दबाना और पूरा दबाव बनाना, ये कांग्रेस की मानसिकता को दिखाता है कि मीडिया को दबाने का और फ्रीडम ऑफ प्रेस, ये बोलते तो हैं लेकिन दबाने का ही काम किया है। इमरजेंसी के टाइम भी और ये इमरजेंसी 2.0 अब भी लगाने का काम कर रहे हैं।
Professor K.G. Suresh, Neerja Chowdhury was just saying that standoff between the media and the governments have been seen in the past. This time round, is it emergency 2.0 imposed by the opposition? And is that even a tenable situation, sir?
Smita, I have before me today's Times of India report, which headlines, "Can't prosecute journalists even if report false." This is Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says that it would be egregious to prosecute journalists under Section 153A of IPC, promoting enmity for false statements in their report. The report may be right or wrong, but that is what free speech is all about. The Chief Justice of India led bench said. Why I am quoting this is of course in a different context.
Yes.
But we are talking about, even the Supreme Court has upheld the right to freedom of speech. They say you cannot accuse journalists of promoting enmity, and here they are talking about hatred. I consider this as a new low in Indian politics. We have all heard about polarization in media for a long time. Even when we were initiated into journalism, I still remember there were, very clearly people used to say that such and such newspaper is left of the center. This newspaper is anti-establishment. This is not for the first time these things are happening.
But sir, Professor Suresh, just a cross question here. Doesn't a political party or a grouping politically, doesn't it have the constitutional right to not appear on somebody's show or to stay away from a certain
absolutely, absolutely. There have been in the past instances when, political parties have boycotted. Here the issue is that I can say that BJP had boycotted, Asianet in Kerala for a long time. Now that is a different thing. But here they have never named or shamed, journalists, individual journalists. Journalists are employees of channels, and of newspapers. Newspapers or publishing houses have editorial lines.
Yes.
Which used to be there earlier also. Every newspaper had its own editorial line. But to name journalists as, now we used to very informally in casual conversation say that, okay, there is polarization in media. But this is institutionalizing that polarization, as Neerja ji said, So by saying that so and so are pro, you are also saying the others are anti. Those who are not in the list are anti-establishment. Now, this is not done. Journalists are supposed to be neutral.
So, are you saying that political parties or groups are compelling journalists to take sides or be divided into camps? Or has it come from the media side?
Let me remind you, Smita, I've been editor of your channel.
Sir.
I still remember that earlier, there was a time when the previous dispensation had banned the entry of journalists, discussion by journalists in the morning newspaper analysis.
Sad.
Then it was when I was editor of your channel that we started a program which is anchored by Ashok Srivastava, whose name is in this list, that is called Do Took. That is the only program where you have a voice from the opposition. Now, that voice from the opposition is heard on Prasar Bharati, which is, the India's public broadcaster, but which is termed as a Sarkari channel. Even
and
there, the opposition gets an opportunity to air its views.
It will please you to know, Professor Suresh, that we have more than several programs and discussions now where all political thoughts and arguments are given ample space. But coming back to the point, you were saying that targeting individuals is the new law in this situation.
Yes, absolutely. You cannot, journalists may have, I can tell you that there are people in this list who had vehemently opposed the present government. I mean, when they were in opposition, the present ruling party. I have participated on these debates in many channels with these anchors, some of whom are now being labeled as pro-government.
Yes.
So to name individuals, because people, it could be due to personal, this thing, but at the end of the day, the journalist working in a channel generally toes the line of the employer.
Fine, sir. So
let me get... would be unfair, totally unfair, unwarranted.
Right. So can I get the legal view here? Because you mentioned this very fresh observation from the Supreme Court, and it has been a very, very off-quoted comment that one should defend everybody's right to speak, no matter how offensive it can be. But Ramakant Gaur, we were just discussing about, this doxing or targeting of certain individuals rather than a political thought. The question, sir, here is, when you name a journalist particularly, it is not only about a political or ideological position. When a certain political group or party names a journalist, an anchor or a columnist, you are willy-nilly giving a message to your political followers. Does this not imperil the life, the safety of that journalist and his or her family? And what should be the legal position considering the recent observations from the Apex Court? Sir.
I completely agree with you, Smita ji, that when such kind of fatwa or diktat is issued by political parties, it causes harm to life and liberty of journalists and their families.
Right.
And this is not the only situation which arises. The situation further aggravates. As you see, Karnataka police registered an FIR against Aaj Tak and Sudhir Chowdhury, who is one of the journalists in this list. So if this is the situation, then are they really concerned about the freedom of press, or is it a lip service? 1. 2, if they issue such kind of list, this is defamation. This is an offense of defamation caused by these political parties against these journalists.
Isn't it ironical, Mr. Gaur? Mr. Gaur, isn't it ironical that up till now, the aggrieved party in case of defamation used to be politicians or the people associated with them. But now it is the journalists who are in a position that they are feeling defamed and they might take legal recourse if they want.
If they want. But something which is apparent may not be real.
Sir.
So virtually, these journalists may be looked like empowered. But effectively speaking, they have limited resources. Right. They have limited salaries from their channels. They have limited resources. They don't have so much of enormous funds to hire lawyers to fight their battle into the courtrooms and do their services as well. And to whom they fight? These political peoples who have some state police and establishments at their disposal, who have enormous powers, funds, etc. available to them. So it's really a difficult thing. But at the same time, we need to look at the perspective holistically as well. What does opposition do in this case? They behaved like a crybaby. They turned their back that we will not go into the shows. What is this? If you are so strong on your facts and you are so strong on your law, on your political position, why don't fight them out in their shows and then say, this is where you are wrong.
Yes.
Amend your fact. See, I have been appearing, and incidentally, I have been appearing for various accused persons of high-profile cases. And I have always appeared with my facts, and name it Arnab or Sudhir Chowdhury or anyone else. I confronted them and they listened to me, irrespective of the fact that I was representing somebody who was accused of billions of dollars of scams. So it is not that the journalist would throttle your voice. They cannot and they will not.
So you are saying, if I gather correctly, you are saying that not only is this a legally very difficult situation and the journalists certainly have been defamed by this step, but at the same time, it also reeks of insecurity on the part of the political, on the political side. If I may come to Neerja Chowdhury, isn't it true that while on the one hand they have named and targeted certain journalists, the opposition is just, sort of limiting the space for its own political arguments and its political voice? I mean, would it not be better to appear on the shows, fight with gusto, argue their point? And it also kind of shows that they have perhaps, they have in a way admitted that they are not able to answer the questions of these journalists. Politically, Neerja ji, how long do you think they will be able to sustain such a maximalist position, considering some reports recently that not all constituents of the alliance are pleased with this move?
I think, what you're saying, even if it is, I feel, even if it is an uneven playing field, which they feel certain channels are for them, I think being in public life, this is something you should take in the chest and face it. I believe that because otherwise what you're doing is making the scene worse, polarizing it further, dividing the media further and so on. There are the implications of that move, that protest move, which are not very happy. Yes. But it is also true, Smita, that I would say some anchors may not allow you to have a say. They would have made up their minds that you are going to be only a showpiece for the sake of it, that a tokenistic presence of the opposition, but that you will be hammered. So a lot of, I'm not going to go into names, but not all the ones anchors mentioned come into that category. But so far, you raise this question, legally and constitutionally, they have a right to boycott any anchor that they want. And it might have been better to decide, okay, we don't go to that show. We say, decline. But you don't have to name 15 people or 16 people by name and, go in for that strategy. Because it has, as I said, a fallout implication. It has implications for the media. It has implications for politics. So it is very unfortunate, but I think we need to do much more brainstorming and thinking.
Just to repeat my question quickly, Neerja Chowdhury, do you think politically they will be able to sustain it really? Coming to the real practical side of it.
Well, they can, if they decide sustain it, not go, that means they don't get that kind of an, exposure on those channels. But it has been done in the past. they lose out on that. But they may think the negative publicity that they get on those channels does them more damage than no publicity at all. That may be a calculation. Or they may hope to give a certain salutary message to the anchors and the channels and then go back to things being what they were.
Fine, fine. So before I come to Professor Suresh on the other remaining aspects of the situation, a very quick listen in to what the opposition leader had to say when they announced that this very unfortunate decision. What was their argument?
साथियों, रोज शाम को 5 बजे कुछ चैनल्स पर नफरत का एक बाजार सजाया जाता है। पिछले 9 साल से लगातार चल रहा है। उस बाजार में अलग अलग पार्टीज के प्रवक्ता जाते हैं, कुछ विशेषज्ञ जाते हैं, कुछ विश्लेषक जाते हैं, लेकिन हम सब नफरत के उस बाजार में ग्राहक बनकर जाते हैं। हमें नफरत मुक्त भारत की दिशा में एक कदम उठाना था। आज एक निर्णय लिया गया, कुछ एंकर्स को चिन्हित किया जाए और उनके इस तरह के शोज में, इवेंट्स में हम लोग न जाएं।
Professor Suresh, Neerja Chowdhury was just saying that either way, the political parties are certainly not going to benefit out of this decision. But I want to come to the journalist bodies, sir, because you are not only a veteran journalist, but a media educator. You are training and preparing the entire the new generation to come into this industry. Certain broadcast organizations have condemned this move. They have also requested the opposition to withdraw it forthwith. But at the same time, there are journalist organizations, there are journalist clubs who are behaving as if nothing has happened. Organizations who are too quick to comment on something happening in Palestine or in some European country are taking so long just to take a position on this individual targeting of anchors. What do you think it means for the future of the industry? And what message does it give to the youngsters who are preparing and training to come into this very competitive industry?
Thank you, Smita. I was more pained than this decision of INDIA. I was more pained to see some journalists, particularly YouTubers, coming out in support of this, boycott call. Because, if our fraternity, we may have differences, sharp differences. But as we always say that matbed theek hai, manbed nahi hona chahiye. Today it is somebody else, tomorrow it could be you. So I think that as a fraternity, we may have our ideological, political, economic, policy. We may have our divergent views and differences. But at the end of the day, I think all journalist organizations should remember that at stake is the freedom of speech and expression. Supporting somebody just because you have a leaning towards them for something blatantly unacceptable is something that is very painful. This will have, I totally agree with you that when it comes to this matter, I think there should be a unanimity among, they can have a different language. Maybe they can, instead of an outright condemnation, they can say, this is not acceptable, we will not. But at the end of the day, I think that, this is about the long-term future of media, long-term implication. It has for the career of many of these journalists. Many of them are young.
Yes.
They have a long road ahead.
Very well put, sir. But please allow me.
It is not done. They can, as you said, they can tomorrow go to a criminal law of defamation, and this is not done. And I've faced this kind of thing. Yeah.
In the past, yes. So, Professor Suresh, thank you for putting it so clearly. And I just have time enough for a very quick reply from Ramakant Gaur. Ramakant Gaur, there is always a legal aspect to these situations when things reach such an extreme point. My quick question to you is, do you think, despite the 19(1)(a) and all the constitutional safeguards that we have in our country, as citizens as well as media persons, do you think there is need for a quick relook into the status of things, or is it just a matter of interpretation?
It's just a matter of interpretation. Law in this country is very solid.
Right.
It has all the arms and ammunition to protect the right of journalists or anybody who is aggrieved. So the country's constitution and the laws are complete in itself to deal with the situations.
Fine. Thank you for putting it so succinctly and so in so few words. Ramakant Gaur, you have given us the legal perspective of the situation, and certainly this might end up in a legal situation, God forbid, considering the way things are going. But on that note, thank you very much, Ramakant Gaur. Also, Professor K.G. Suresh, both of you gentlemen have been very frank and forthright in your views. I also thank Neerja Chowdhury for finding the time at a very short notice and flagging all the issues that are concerned here in this very, very unfortunate situation. Thank you, guests. A democracy thrives on situations which never reach an inflection point, and there is always a middle path. Somewhere down the line, viewers, the means of communication, the culture of communication has been discarded, which is leading to such extreme situations. Journalists need to be responsible in their utterances, in their treatment of issues, so that no kind of provocation is attributed to them. But can political parties individually target journalists for doing their job? And also, is it going to help them at all? Think about it. Till the next weekend, see you again on Media Scan. Namaskar.